Their grandfather passed away, then they found a trap door in his living room. Inside the basement was proof that their grandfather's wild stories had not all been fabrications. At least one of them turned out to be true. The contents of the basement had nothing to do with the story about John Dinley supposedly meeting the 31st President of the United States, but it was related to another story of his, which was equally amazing. Before we reveal what was inside the basement, you need to know the story behind it. This story had been one of John Dinley's favorites. His family had always taken it with a pinch of salt. It was just too ridiculous to be true. Or was it? When they found out what was inside the basement, it all seemed a lot less crazy than what they had always thought. The story went as follows. It all started when John was 22 years old. He was in his car on his way to Dallas to look for a job when he came across a man whose car had broken down. John stopped his car next to the broken down vehicle. The man was also on his way to Dallas, but something was wrong with his engine. He had no idea what to do. Luckily for him, John knew his way around cars and fixed the engine in no time at all. The man was so impressed that he asked if John would be his full-time mechanic. John was confused. How often did this man suppose his car would break down? On the drive to the man's house, John had the time to really appreciate the vehicle he had just fixed. There it was, right in front of him. It was a Jaguar, and a brand new one at that. John had never seen a car like that. He kept his eyes on the car during the 2-hour drive to the man's house. Wow! That was all John could say. This house was something else. If you could even call it a house. Everyone you'd ask would describe it as a mansion. It was enormous and beautiful. The gardens were well-groomed and the walls were sparkling white. It was like in a dream. The man even employed servants, who quickly produced an extravagant lunch for the pair. During lunch, the man revealed something to John that would change his life. During lunch, the man finally revealed what John's job would be. He was to take care of and maintain the man's extensive vehicle collection. Apparently, the man was a true collector and had a large collection in a barn nearby. In exchange, John was even allowed to start living in the farmhouse next to the barn. Over the next few years, John built a life for himself on this farm just outside of Dallas. The barn was completely filled with all kinds of cars, and the man's collection only grew. John kept them in tip-top shape and took them out for short drives every now and then. Life was good. The man who employed John passed away in a car accident. He had no kids, no wife, and only one brother. According to his will, John was to inherit the contents of the barn, while the brother inherited the house and all of the man's other wealth. John was suddenly in the possession of a large amount of expensive cars. What did he do with them? You'll read it on the next page. The man had given him everything: a house to live in, a steady job, a happy life. And now he was gone. John was heartbroken. He refused to enter the barn ever again. And so the bar stayed on the barn door and rotted away, while John grew older, had a family, and eventually passed away. His family never knew what he had inherited all those years ago. When John's family finally opened up the trap door to the basement after it had been closed for decades, their jaws dropped. Inside the basement, they found a large collection of gold bars. According to a document on a table in the basement, there were over 1,000 gold bars in this room. They had been exchanged for the contents of a certain barn years ago. They sent for an appraiser to get an idea of the value of this collection. The appraiser told the family that this collection, in total, was worth over $26 million. This was a big surprise to them. They had never thought that their grandfather had actually inherited a massive car collection because they had never seen it before. That was, of course, because he had traded it for over 1,000 gold bars. Suddenly they were rich.